So hello and welcome back yet again to Christine attempting to bring the World of Warcraft into The Sims 4. And this week I decided that what I really wanted to do and what I wanted to do for my World of Warcraft Tiny Town playthrough was to attempt to recreate, at least in some small way, Stormwind Cemetery. I was thinking about it a lot because in my World of Warcraft Tiny Town Challenge, I already have one grave that needs to be put into the cemetery from a character that just sort of accidentally died. So I figured I would film a little bit inside of World of Warcraft itself, walk around, see how much inspiration I can get, and tell you a few fun facts about Stormwind Cemetery along the way. Did you know that inside of the cemetery in Stormwind, towards the back wall, there is a very small grave that is clickable? And that grave belongs to Sir Nicholas Grabari. And when you click on his grave, he poofs out, so proving that Stormwind Cemetery is indeed haunted. And he actually has several quotes. He asks you if you know any good jokes. If you have seen his comrades, he lets you know that it's a beautiful day. And before he fades away, which he does after a few minutes, he says, "Farewell, my friends, for time grows short. I must depart," and then he yells poof and disappears. He's also interactable in that if you do the /silly emote to him, he will either tell you that it was a very funny joke and he really enjoyed it, or he'll tell you he didn't really like that joke. Tell him a different one. And he's actually a memorial to a deceased player who had the exact same name who mained a human paladin. I just think that's a beautiful story, and if you're ever in Stormwind Cemetery, you should go and click on his grave and visit him. It's not too hard to find. It's between the black rose bushes and Queen Tiffin's grave. And speaking of Queen Tiffin, that is Queen Tiffin Wrynn, who is the mother of Anduin Wrynn. And she had quite the tragic story. She was killed by a flying stone when Anduin was just a very small boy. Tiffin belonged to a noble family in Stormwind, and her marriage was arranged at birth to King Varian, but they did love each other a whole lot. She became beloved by pretty much all of the people, and she was one of the strongest supporters of paying the stonemasons who rebuilt Stormwind. And it's kind of ironic that it was she who ended up being killed because of the whole kerfuffle with the stonemasons. It's one of the many tragedies of World of Warcraft. And her grave is located back near the tower behind the large kind of mausoleum. I always thought that it was just sort of an area for the people of Stormwind to maybe have their funerals and so on. But in looking into it a little bit more, I actually found out that the large building that is in the middle of the cemetery is actually a tomb. I never knew that. I really did think that it was just something that was placed in Stormwind so that citizens could have their funerals. But no, it's sort of a tomb, and nobody really knows who it is to. There was a lot of speculation that it was actually the tomb of Arthas, and then there was a lot of also speculation that it was the tomb of Arthas's father, mostly because the symbol on the stone inside of that tomb area is the symbol of Lordaeron. So the more you know, and there's a lot of things about World of Warcraft that I still don't know, no matter how much I look into it. But I enjoy finding things out. And as you can see, I also really enjoy building in The Sims. Now, again, I always say this in every one of my Sims 4 building videos. It's never going to be perfect, and I'm probably my own harshest critic, but I'm mostly happy with the way it turned out. I spent a very long time trying to get the trellises behind Queen Tiffin's tomb at least kind of close to World of Warcraft's version, and I'm mostly happy with how it turned out. I also wanted to make sure to have just that little bit of Stormwind Lake off to the side. That turned out to almost be a mistake because it was a lot harder to do than I was expecting it to. Also, you might notice that I never do put the domed roof on the central tomb, and that was because I could not get the stupid thing to snap on. Circular roofs in The Sims are just, they're a pain in the rear end. And I'm sure that there are builders out there that could do an amazing job with it. But I hit my limit, and I finally said, you know what, it's just going to have a flat roof on it, and we're going to call it good. Now, as always, if you are interested in downloading this lot, it will be on my gallery page. My EA ID is just CSTI. Very easy, you know, kind of an easy EA ID to remember. And you will have to look under the modded category. Ironically, there's only one piece of modded CC in this build, but it was one that I just felt had to be there, and it was the strange little carriage that is over near the lake. I just felt that it just wouldn't feel like Stormwind Cemetery if that wasn't there, so I found a CC creator that had that little kind of carriage and said, yep, that's going into my cemetery. Shout out to all of the CC creators. I kind of wish that some more of them would put out some more World of Warcraft looking stuff, but we do the best we can with what we have. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with this build, and it went through a lot of different iterations as I was building it. I was trying really hard to get the feeling correct. Like the little planter boxes around Queen Tiffin's grave actually are going to get deleted soon because I spent a very, very long time deep in the heart of the debug menu. There's a lot of good stuff in debug. You have to dig through it, and I wish you didn't have to dig quite so hard. I really wish there was a way that things could be categorized within debug, but I understand that they don't always want people playing in the debug menu because there's just so many good things there. But yeah, at first I was just going to put this little broken cart into the build, and then I remembered that I had a much better one. I also couldn't find anything that looked exactly like the little watchtowers that are on the corners in Stormwind, but I figured the big stone monoliths would at least mostly do. Other than that, how's everybody doing? Are you guys having a absolutely fantastic, hopefully end of winter? I don't know about anybody else, but I'm really tired of winter. I'm completely over it. And where I live, I'm gonna have winter for at least another 2 to 3 months, so I should probably stop feeling so over it. But we had a brief little warm up just yesterday. We made it all the way up to 53 degrees, which was beyond stupidly amazing. It felt really good. On a bad note, it did melt most of the snow that was in all over the roads and everything, which means everything is going to be sloppy until morning when it all thaws out again and then becomes impossible to drive on. It's the bummers of winter. But it felt nice. It felt really nice to get outside, at least for an hour or two, and just kind of bask in something that didn't feel like I was going to freeze to death. I love winter, and I hate winter, which I feel like is just kind of something that most people who live in the Northern Hemisphere probably resonate very deeply with. I know I do. That being said, I don't think I could ever move back to the South. I lived in the South for a long time and discovered about myself that I would rather be a little bit cold than a whole lot hot. And back to Stormwind, did you know that according to the World of Warcraft itself, at night, Stormwind Cemetery is used by SI7, which is Stormwind's little spy wing, for covert meetings and exchanges. Also, if you play on Moonguard, which is a roleplay server like I do, Stormwind Cemetery in that server tends to be the hangout of a lot of the people who are role-playing as criminals and vampires. If you hang out in the cemetery, you will find a whole lot of death knights and a whole lot of vampires back in that area. So it's one of those tread with caution unless you want to engage in a little bit of kind of vampy and possibly get robbed roleplay. It's a lot of fun. Moonguard is a lot of fun. Please don't, if you are not, or if you are a World of Warcraft player but not actually a role player, don't let the reputation that people have given Moonguard put you off just coming around. Moonguard is actually a delightful place, and I've got nothing but praise because I've met some incredibly wonderful people there. I'm also not really sure who the graves are in this other little area that I'm working on right now. I went back into WoW. I mean, I didn't get this area anywhere near what it looks like in WoW, but I'm at the same time not going to really complain about it because I like the way it turned out. But there are 3 graves back there, and you can click on them to read the headstone, but I don't know who they're for. But that being said, I did want to kind of recreate them a little bit, put a little memorial area in front of them, plus a little bit of seating, because I do want this to be usable. And to that end, when I did put this on the gallery, it is listed as a cemetery lot, and I did not realize that a cemetery lot had to have a restroom, so I spent probably a lot longer than I needed to trying to figure out how to put a restroom into a Stormwind cemetery. Though the way that I ended up doing it, I'm mostly satisfied with. Also, I wanted as many different types of gravestones as I could get. So I, again, went frolicking through the debug menu and just found all sorts of graves. Some of them looked like they were freshly dug. Some of them looked much, much older. And then just getting kind of the finishing touches. I also found a dead bush inside of the debug menu that I kind of liked, since they don't have any black roses in The Sims, which is unfortunate. And then a few more little things. I definitely wanted a couple more benches, a place to maybe throw away some trash. After all, this does still have to be a functional cemetery for The Sims. And then it was time to figure out where to put the bathroom, and I was like, well, you know what? I have this rounded tower room, and if I do it right, it should be a functional bathroom and maybe not very noticeable as an actual room if I did it right. The only bummer was, for whatever reason, probably my lack of skill as a builder, I couldn't get the frieze at the top of that to go smoothly across. I don't know what I was doing wrong there, so I covered it up with a plant, because if nothing else, you cover it up with a plant and you're good. Then, of course, I wanted to put what I now know is a grave inside of the building. I didn't realize it was a grave, so I just put another little memorial thing. So at least in this iteration, if you download this into your save, you could probably have a funeral there. People could come in, have a little memorial gathering. It would be a nice place to have a funeral. At least I think it would. Then it was just time for all the final touches, getting the ceilings in, getting everything painted, getting the terrain painted, which I will spare you from because I like terrain paint, but it takes a very long time, and I try not to subject anyone to too much of that. I think I left a little bit of it in, but doing a little bit of terrain painting, and it just really helps make things look a little bit more realistic, or as realistic as you can get The Sims to look. So yeah, we're about to finish up. We are definitely going to do a walkthrough of what it looks like within The Sims 4 from the first person angle, but just wanted to say thank you so much for listening to me ramble. Leave your memories of Stormwind down below, leave me a thumbs up, and I will see you next week for another build.